of Social Outreach for Realtor.com, and I have two amazing experts with me on safety and security. I have Tracy Hawkins and Burton Kelso. So Burton, will you go first and introduce yourself and tell the audience a little bit about you and what you do?
Yes, my name's Burton Kelso. I'm known as the technology expert. For the past 27 years, I've been helping real estate professionals real time. I'm just not a technology trainer. I'm an actual tech expert where I go out in the field and I help agents conquer their technology and make sure that they can use it so they can make more money. So my company does on-site and remote tech support for real estate professionals.
Awesome. Tracy, tell us a little bit about you.
Okay, I'm Tracy Hawkins. I'm also known as Tracy the Safety Lady. I am a former real estate agent, and I have spent the last, 25 years teaching real estate agents all across the country how to live and how to work safely. And after being told by an education director that realtors only show up for training that teaches them how to make money, I had an aha moment. So I have geared my training to teach agents not only how to work safely, but how to make more money by adding value to the relationship with the consumer. And I'm also a writer for the National Association of Realtors, Realtor Magazine. I had the most popular article of the year back in 2017, and it was about male agent safety. So I am frontline involved, and my goal is to help agents be safe.
Awesome. I love it. I'm so excited about this session. I feel like I'm going to learn a lot. So before we started, the three of us were talking and we decided, so the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to talk about some general safety, some of their top tips for keeping you and your clients safe. And then we're going to go into more specifics that are related to COVID-19 and how to be safe during this new era that we're in. So, one of you, let's go with Burton first. Give us some of your top general safety tips.
Well, one of the most important safety tips that real estate professionals need to follow is being safe when it comes to online workplace. What you need to understand as far as cybercrime is concerned is that 99% of cybercrime requires user interaction. So when you hear about these hacks and wire fraud in the real estate industry, 9 times out of 10, it's because someone clicked on the file that they weren't supposed to click on, or they didn't take the proper steps to make sure that their password information is safe and secure. Agents are guilty of using the same passwords for online accounts. You've got to stop that. You've got to use different passwords for all of your online accounts. Also, you need to train yourself and your buyers and sellers how to identify phishing emails and phishing calls and phishing texts. There are several websites that you can go to in order to educate yourself to find out how to spot a phishing fraud. But at the same time, you really do need to educate your buyers and sellers so that they can identify these threats and to make sure that they don't fall victim to wire frauds. The other thing that's very important as far as security is concerned is to make sure that all of your devices are up to date and secure. Because if you're using outdated technology to run your real estate business, it's just going to open your business up to cybercrime and to hackers getting into your stuff. So update your passwords, educate yourself, and make sure that your devices are always up to date and secure.
Yeah, it's funny that those device updates, they're a pain in the rear, but a lot of times they are specifically, those updates are specifically put out to fix security holes in the system. So it is really important. I know at Realtor.com, we're owned by News Corp, and they are all about cyber safety. And we get it all the time. We are constantly required to take online classes and little courses about security. And you don't click on it if a link looks weird or if you're not sure, even if it comes from someone don't click on it. Reach out to them and ask them first, because the minute you click, you're opening yourself up to those issues. So
I was going to add a couple of things to that, Marcy, is that one thing as far as you were talking about links and not clicking on, let's go back to the updates. So for computer updates, there is what's called a bug bounty that hardware and software manufacturers put out. So they challenge the hacker community to hack into their stuff. And if a vulnerability is found, then they award the hacker the bug bounty, and we get the reward in those updates. So if you see a security update, that means that there is a known threat out there, and that you need to immediately download whatever update is there. And as far as phishing emails, one of the more prominent ways that real estate professionals and buyers and sellers get hacked is the phishing email that goes out, and it looks like it comes from a legitimate source. So if you're an agent, it looks like it may come from your broker. If you're a buyer or seller, as a real estate professional, your information's out there. So it's not hard for a cyber criminal to send a phishing email with an agent's name on it. So yes, you got to take the steps to make sure you're safe.
So a bug bounty. I had never heard of that. I love that. Awesome.
Yeah, those bug bounties can be up to $1 million. I think Apple's $1 million. So that's a lot of incentive for people
crazy.
To hack that stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, it's great to know there's actually legit hackers out there too that are really actually working to keep us safe. So, okay, Tracy, let's hear what you've been up to.
Well, I make a living teaching safety. So that's what I do. It's all I do. So therefore, I am super focused and I am an expert. I had someone tell me that I always ask, how do you find me? And someone said, well, I Googled real estate safety and there I was. So I take it seriously. One thing that I do also as a content creator is I make sure that I'm talking up to date and relevant information. There's nothing worse than someone who rolls out some outdated information telling agents to be safe. It's just not going to work. So I pride myself in telling agents to be safe. For example, one of the first things that people say whenever there's a crime against an agent and they say, how do we prevent it? Cito, come into the office. No, you don't do that anymore. Most agents don't have offices anymore. There are virtual companies and agents work virtually. And then people started saying, well, meet at a coffee shop. No, you can't meet at a coffee shop because coffee shops are typically busy and the people in the coffee shop don't know you. And the whole point of meeting in advance is to create witness potential. Since criminals are cowards, they don't want witnesses. So if you're in a busy coffee shop, the barista, the person behind the counter, won't be able to identify you if law enforcement comes calling. So I say, go somewhere where you are known. If it's the neighborhood coffee shop or the coffee shop near your office and they know you by name, they're more likely to remember you and to know whether or not you're with someone. They can give a description to law enforcement officials. And I always say, work with your partners. You have business partners as agents. That means your lender, your title company, your insurance company. I guarantee you, they will allow you to use their office, their conference room to meet a client in advance first. So there's no excuses to meet a complete stranger. I look at stories of agents who've been assaulted and worse. And my goal is to not blame the victim, but to learn lessons from there. I incorporate that in my programs. I tell real life stories and examples, and I weave that into the training. And I tell agents, here's what happened here, and here is something that you can do to prevent that. So I definitely, there's value to it. And the most recent crime against an agent, or the worst crime against an agent, happened on New Year's Eve. And it was the Monica Bao story, and she was in Minnesota. And she did what so many other agents do. As an agent, I've done it myself. I think I mentioned I have a sister who's an agent. We've done it. You get a phone call, you get excited, and you meet a client at a property. My job is to tell you how to prevent what happened to her and to other agents, how to prevent it from happening to you without stopping you from being productive. If I tell agents to do something and they think it's an obstacle, they're not going to do it. So my goal as a former agent is to tell you what I know works that you will actually do in real life. So I add a twist to the regular training that everybody else can see out there. I make it different and I make it relevant and realistic.
Okay, so share. I love your tip about meeting someplace where you are known. I think that's such a good tip. Give us some more, both of you. I want to hear some more of your proper practices and things that we should be doing with our clients and day to day to keep ourselves safer.
Well, I'll go first as far as that. One other thing that agents need to do is to make sure that they back up their data. That is very important in this day of cybercrime. One of the most prominent cyber threats out there is ransomware. And ransomware is a type of virus that will go through and destroy all of your files, not only on your laptop and desktop computer, but ransomware is vicious enough that it'll go up to the cloud and it'll destroy all your data. So if you've got Dropbox or Google Drive or OneDrive or even iCloud Drive, ransomware will seek out your cloud backup and it will go and destroy the files there too. So it will virtually wipe you out of any documents, any pictures, any videos that you have stored. So when I say backup, that doesn't mean that you store your information in the cloud. That means you use a backup service like, say, Carbonite or Backblaze. Now, these services obviously are paid, but the fee is very inexpensive. So for about $72 a year, you get unlimited backup of all of your files, and you get redundancy, which is the most important aspect of backup. Because when you have redundancy, that means that you can go back at least 30 days or 60 days and retrieve files that were lost either by accident, user error, or by a vicious cybercrime attack. So it's important to understand that your file storage services like Dropbox are designed for you to access your files from anywhere in the world, especially if you work virtually. But those will not keep you safe from a catastrophic loss. Backup services like Carbonite at carbonite.com or Backblaze at backblaze.com are redundant services. They're inexpensive, and they will save your real estate business in the case of data loss.
Wow, that's great advice. Great advice. Awesome. Thanks. Tracy, give us some of your proper practices and tips.
Okay. Another thing that I had to do to stand out in the crowd, because whenever there was a crime against an agent, suddenly everyone was a real estate safety expert and everyone was reading PowerPoints, and it's like, there's got to be a better way. So what I did is I created the country's only real estate safety designation. I've had over 600 agents complete it, and it consists of 2 classes, and one is the regular safe practices and principles. So that's real estate safety 101. The other one, I talk more about the technology part. We talk about the online safety, and we talk about social media safety and just ways to do their business in a safer manner. And I also found, I get a lot of technology companies who say, hey, Tracy, sell my stuff to real estate agents. And it's like, no, I can't do that. I take my job too seriously. They trust me, and I do vet companies. So I have an opportunity to vet companies to make sure their product does what it says they do. So I talk about that in the second class. So the whole premise of my designation is I am teaching agents not only how to work safely themselves, but how to add value to the relationship with the consumer. So that means that I am telling agents, when you go on a seller listing presentation, here's how you stand out from the other 2 or 3 agents that the sellers have interviewed before you. And I provided a security checklist. And this is for the home seller. So the agent walks in, and instead of talking about analysis and how much money you're going to net and money and marketing, the agent is talking about, here's how I want to help you keep yourself, your family, and your possessions safe while your house is on the market. And it's a checklist, and I make it available for free for agents just to print it out and check it off. So you immediately stand out from all of the other agents who are coming in talking about money. I also talk to agents, and this is the one that's been the most popular, caught me off guard, and I know through the years I've provided thousands of copies to agents, is the FSBO safety tip sheet. FSBOs don't want to talk to real estate agents. Let's be honest. They don't think that real estate agents add value to the relationship. So whenever a FSBO sign goes up, what happens? Real estate agents left and right are calling them. I can list your property. I have a buyer. They don't want to talk to you. So what I did is I created a sheet. It's 12 or 13 tips, 13, I think, tips where real estate agents staple their business card to that sheet, and they're giving that to FSBOs. You're not asking for a listing. You're not talking about buyers. You're saying, here are 13 things that you did not think about when you decided to sell your own house. Here are safety tips that never crossed your mind because you're focused on the commission. And FSBOs love that. So when they finally realize, it's not as easy. And by the time they get to the bottom of that list, they're thinking, what was I thinking? This is crazy. This is dangerous. I don't know what I'm doing. They're going to call the real estate agent whose business card is attached to that sheet. So that adds value there. And that's the sheet that, Marcy, you'll enter the website information so agents can go to my website and grab that, start using it in your marketing. And then also buyers. I tell agents to be a resource for buyers. Tell them where to find crime statistics.
So Mara, the URL that I gave you, Mara is moderating for us today. If you could place that into the comments, and if you go to that URL, that is where Tracy will have this list for you to download. So I love that. And then you also have, didn't you mention you have one for buyers as well? Safety tips and a safety list?
Right. If a buyer asks an agent, we're looking at houses, is that a good neighborhood? Is that a safe neighborhood? Real estate agents know you're not legally allowed to answer that question. You cannot tell them if it's a safe neighborhood. So I provided a resource sheet. Agents need to be resources for buyers. Agents can tell buyers, here is where you go to get information on whether or not it's a safe neighborhood. Start with the crime prevention department at the local police department. You can look at Realty Track. You can look at spot crime. There are so many out there. Get the crime statistics and then determine if the house meets your criteria for safety in a neighborhood, and then bring the house to me and then we'll go look at it. But agents definitely cannot try to advise buyers on what's a safe neighborhood or not. Can't do it.
Yeah, good tip. So, all right. Before we move on to COVID-19 specific safety tips, do Kelso or Burton, I'm sorry, I was doing that during I keep calling him by his last name. Burton, do you have any specific additional tips that you want to give that are just real estate general related before we move on to the COVID-19?
Yes, agents need to be aware of credential stuffing. We talked about this before the show, but credential stuffing is the act of cyber criminals finding your credentials on the web. It could be information that's shared on the dark web, could be information that's shared on your real estate website. But what they do is they'll take your usernames and passwords and they'll continue to stuff online accounts such as your email, if you're using Gmail or Hotmail or AOL, or even, I hate to say it, social media accounts and live streaming accounts. But what they'll do is they'll stuff the credentials of yours that they found on the web, and then they'll commandeer your account. So obviously, if you're doing a lot of real estate transactions via email and you're saving that stuff in your email account, you need to stop that practice. But at the same time, you've got to get into the habit of not using the same passwords for your online accounts. And you've got to make sure that you're keeping on top of if your real estate email address has been breached in a data breach. There's a website that agents can go to called Have I Been Pwned? And pwned is spelled PWNED.com. If you go to this website, you can put your real estate email address in to find out if it's been part of a large-scale data breach.
Oh, that's great advice. Wow. I'm going to do that. Yeah.
Part of the problem with agents is that our personal lives sometimes blur with our professional lives. And so we begin to use our real estate email address to log into personal accounts. And you really can't do that. One of the other practices to kind of help with credential stuffing is to make sure that you're only sharing your email address with only people that you are working with. If you can design your real estate website to have a form where people can fill out to email you, you want to do that as opposed to just posting your email address on the web. Because as an agent, you're out there, you're on the web, people can Google you and find personal information. So the less you share, the better off you are. And you also need to make sure that you are taking steps to protect yourself and to find out if your email address has been breached and if your passwords have been breached as well.
So do you recommend that an agent would have possibly more than one email address so that they could because like most agents want to be found pretty easily. So do they have an email address that they put out there, but they have a separate one where like when they're transacting with someone, they only use this email address? Or, I mean, I don't.
You could have separate email addresses, like you could have an info or help at your realestateoffice.com, which brings me up to another point. Agents have got to quit using free email extensions. So if you have a Gmail, a Hotmail, an AOL account, those extensions basically say hack me, because cyber criminals look for those free email addresses because they know that they're easy to get access to, and it's easy to trick a wide variety of people with an AOL or Hotmail address. So if you're an agent, get a domain. They're not that expensive. Just go to GoDaddy, get your own domain, and it will cut down the amount of spam and the amount of junk email that you're going to get. But as far as emails are concerned, it's not a bad idea to have a help at or an info at email address to kind of filter out the emails that come through. But as far as your personal real estate email address, yes, that's something you probably want to keep private and only share that with your buyers and sellers that you're working with immediately. And one last thing, let's talk about phone numbers. Phone numbers, agents use their cell phone numbers quite a bit, and you've got to stop this practice. It may be a good idea to set up a Google Voice account or WhatsApp or phone account so that you're not getting spoofed and your phone number is not getting out there and being used by cyber criminals to trick other people.
Wow, that's great advice too. So if you're using like a Google Voice account that forwards to your cell phone, that keeps you safe.
It does, yes. Because cyber criminals, when they're looking to spoof phone numbers to make those prank phone calls to people, they'll use cellular numbers to trick the caller ID, and they look for local numbers too. Now, if you're using a Google Voice number or sign up with Vonage or some of the other voice over IP companies, they're not going to use numbers like that. So your cell phone, you definitely want to keep it private for your buyers and sellers so that your cell phone number is not floating around out there. Because if that number is compromised, that's your business. That's your business. So you really want to keep that number sacred.
Awesome. That's a tip I did not know, and really good advice. I mean, my cell phone number is public everywhere, which is kind of scary now that I think about it. So,
Marcy, before we talk about COVID safety, can I add one more thing?
Yeah, please tell us.
Another thing that I've done is I know liability is a big deal, and I know safety is important, but liability is a very real issue. I created a broker manager owner workshop. It's a certification workshop. I've had over 150 broker manager companies participate. Whenever you hear a crime about an agent, you can almost guarantee there's a lawsuit somewhere behind. And there was a big high profile crime against an agent where the family sued the real estate company. And so a light bulb moment happened again. And it's like, I've got to tell broker managers and owners how to prevent getting sued. And what that lawsuit was that there was negligence on part of the real estate company, that if they had provided effective quality expert-led training, that agent would not have been victimized. So with that in mind, I have created a program, a certification, and I am telling brokers, managers, and owners, here's what you need to do to avoid being sued. I say successfully. Anybody can sue, but here's how you can eliminate being sued successfully. And that means you need to have quality training, someone who's not just a pop-up safety expert, but someone who is an expert in the field who will stand up on a witness stand if necessary and say that, I've got the best qualified person. We need to talk about making sure your office is secure. That means the four walls. That means the equipment and property inside. That means the people inside, not just the agents. That also means that you have to have processes in place. Let's talk about your agent safety practices or your agents following the rules and protocols. And safety starts from the top. So if the ownership takes safety seriously, the agents are going to take it seriously, and they know it's not negotiable. So my goal is to teach brokers, managers, and owners, here's what you need to do. And I created a handbook, a safety practices and policy handbook that brokers and managers get after our training class, because I've told them, here's how you make sure that you have a fire drill, or what happens if there's workplace violence. I can't go too deep into detail, but I can give them the basics. Here is a plan. Here is where you start. So my goal is to make sure that they are protected by keeping the office and the people safe, as well as making sure their agents know that safety is serious. So they're going to provide that information. I am excited. I was excited about 6 or 7 years ago when the National Association of Realtors mandated mandated safety education for every association and board. You must have some kind of safety training, some kind of education. There's no criteria, but just the fact that they did that excited me, and it's like, this is good. And then there is a real estate company, I'm not going to say the name, but you know who you are, that mandates every single office and company must have safety training. I love that.
Fabulous.
You know what company I'm talking about, but all real estate companies should mandate training. There's no
100%. Right. Well, and I feel like too, sometimes possibly the ones that are most at risk are the smaller independent brokerages that don't have the safety and security tools that are funneled down from the bigger parent company. And so those, some great resources and tools out there for them would be leveraging the two of you for their business.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
We level the field. There's no excuse for someone to say, I didn't know anyone. And so we just watch a webinar and that's our safety training, or we just bring in so-and-so who's not teaching another class today. That's our training. I say respect expertise, respect the experts. Let those of us who do this on a regular basis, let us do the training, and you all do what you do best, sell real estate, and let us do what we do.
Sure. So before we get into some COVID-19 specific safety tips, I would like to ask the audience, you guys that are watching us, throw some questions in, and we're going to talk a few more minutes about some COVID-19 specific safety tips, but you guys may have some questions based on, the conversation and things that we haven't covered yet. So pop those into the thread here, and we're going to keep going. So Burton, you want to start us off?
With COVID-19 safety tips, of course. Yeah. So one of the things agents need to be concerned about are their smart devices and making sure that those devices are disinfected. So if you're still going out doing even a virtual tour or just out and about, it's been said, which is true, that you need to make sure that you wash your hands. But at the same time, you need to make sure that your smart devices are disinfected as well. And there's a way to properly disinfect your device. Now, most of you have been told you can just go ahead and slap an electronic wipe on your phone. Now, that'll clean your device, but it won't disinfect your device, which is key. So there's several things that you can do. So not to be the salesman here, I'm not. If you want an eco-friendly product to use, this Pure and Clean surface cleaner is a good eco-friendly option to get, and you can get
writing that down. Pure and Clean. Okay.
Pure and Clean. You can get it at pureandclean.us, but it's an eco-friendly cleaning product that'll work on any surface. Now, if you don't want to get Pure and Clean and you want to make your own concoction, you need to use. I always say this wrong. Is it isopropyl or isopropyl? Tomato.
Say alcohol. Let's just say alcohol.
I was about to get to the alcohol part. But yeah, isopropyl alcohol.
That's
you need
what I say.
That's at least, I love holding this up to the camera, at least 70%. See, this bottle is 91%, but you can mix that with 50% water in a water bottle, and then you can spray that on your device. Now, here's the most important thing about disinfecting your device. When you use your solution, and I'll grab this water bottle here, I'm going to spray it onto my smartphone, and this goes for any surface that you're using. So it doesn't matter if it's your smartphone, doesn't matter if it's your mouse or your keyboard or laptop. I know I'm showing all this stuff, right? But the key thing is that you have to let the solution sit on whatever you're disinfecting for 5 minutes.
Oh, wow.
And 5 minutes, because in that process, it will go through and clean the germs, because if you just spray it and then wipe it off, then that doesn't do anything except clean it. It does not disinfect your device. So you have to let the solution set on your device for no less than 5 minutes to make sure that it's disinfected properly.
Okay.
The other thing too, when you're wiping your devices down, always use a microfiber cloth to make sure that you don't scratch the surface of your screens on your phones, your tablets, and even your touchscreen laptops, and of course your keyboard and mice too. So that is key, because COVID-19 can live on surfaces up to 72 hours. So if you're an agent and you're out about either doing personal stuff or going out into homes, doing virtual tours, whatever, make sure that you're taking proper steps to disinfect your devices. One other thing that you can get for your smartphones, tablets, and computers is to get a antimicrobial case. This one's from Tech 21. And you can get that at tech21.com. So the purpose of a antimicrobial case is that it will reduce the amount of microbes that are growing on your smartphone, tablet, and laptop. And these items are pretty inexpensive. You can get the case for about $25 on Amazon. But let's just say you have poor tech hygiene, you get an antimicrobial case, it will definitely cut down the microbes, so you don't have to worry about cleaning your device as often.
Wow. Great advice. I learned a lot. Awesome. Okay. Tracy.
First and foremost, the National Association of Realtors has been upfront with this COVID-19, they were on it immediately. Mm-hmm. If you go to the realtor.org, or I'm sorry, nar.realtor website, you can find the COVID-19 policy, and it contains safety tips and information. They've done a fabulous job of keeping agents posted. And I'm kind of partial to KCRAR here in Kansas City. They have been all over it. It's like a full-time job. They have a whole team working on getting agents the information that they need in order to work safely. So I'm extremely proud of them. What I'm going to say is it depends on where you live, whether or not real estate is considered an essential service. So depending on where you live, you may or may not be able to do some activity. So know the rules, know the laws first. And if you're able to do some activities, you still need to be safe. And there are disclosure forms out there, and that basically protects the buyers as well as the sellers and the agent. It tells the buyers, this home may or may not be infected. We don't know for sure. So you're pretty much entering at your own risk. And it's telling the seller, same thing. We don't know who's coming in your house. So if you decide to show your home or allow your house to be showed, know the risk that you are going to experience. So it's upfront, and it lets everybody know that there could be issues. And another thing is if agents need to show, in some places, if the property is empty, you are allowed to show, but sometimes you simply have to show. People have to move. Life still goes on. So if you have to show a house that's occupied, the agent, you should talk to the seller, and you have a right to do this. A lot of times agents are worried about violating someone's rights, and that's a very big deal. Don't get me wrong, fair housing laws and other rights, but you also have a right to protect yourself. So you have a right to ask the seller, does anyone in the house exhibit any symptoms of this virus? Have you been out of the country? Have you traveled? You have a right to ask that. And if they say, no, we're good for you to show it, ask them to disinfect the property, and always assume that they didn't necessarily disinfect well. So agents, you have to come with your toolkits, and that toolkit needs to include sanitizing wipes, hand wipes, as well as actual surface sanitizers. You have a right to ask the seller to leave doors, cabinets open so that you don't have to open those, you don't have to touch them, but assume that they're probably not going to do it, but have the mindset that you're going to be safe anyway. So have the gloves on. And again, I think Burton mentioned it. If you have the gloves on and you touch a surface, then you touch your phone, and then you scratch your face, you've contaminated yourself. So if you have the gloves on, gloves touch nothing but surfaces, no phones, no purses, nothing. And you need to wear booties, and that protects your shoes from bringing in any kind of germs or anything excess. You need to leave the doors open, and tell the client, don't touch anything. If you're the wearer of the gloves and you're the one who leads the way, and you make sure doors and windows are open. But definitely make antibacterial wipes your friend.
Awesome.
Tracy, I was going to ask you a quick question. What about, are you wanting agents, if they're going out to do showings, do they need to have N95 respirators, or do you want them to cover their face completely, or how do you feel about that?
Respirators, or even the bandanas. I watched a TV doctor today make a bandana with 2 rubber bands, just like that, in 2 seconds. Yeah. Any extra layer, whether in some places it's mandated that you have to, and I think they were thinking about that here in Kansas City. But if you want to be on the safer side and you want to live through this, gloves as well as the mask. If you have access to the N95, then that's perfect. But I understand that those are pretty much medical grade, and you don't want to get caught with those because the frontline medical personnel needs them. A bandana helps stop the spread, so that's just as good. So you don't even have to know how to sew. Just fold it up 3 times, put the rubber bands on it, and then you're in business. So yes, I agree, Burton. Yes.
Awesome. Burton and Tracy, thank you so much. I feel like you've added so much value in this little 30-minute session today. I can't thank you enough for all of your advice and your suggestions and help. Go ahead, Tracy, you got one more thing?
Okay. I alluded to it earlier. I know I'm going to get a lot of questions. People always say, what about safety apps? And I'm saying apps are too late. By the time you push a safety app, you're already in trouble, and, the law enforcement officials will come to find what's left. I found a company, it's called, Agent Safe Walk. And I had to do the whole vetting, and it's been a while, and I like what I see. And the thing I like about them is that you are never alone. And the difference between this app and any other app, on the other apps, and this is a criteria for any app you're considering, if you push a button to get attention and your message goes to someone, your contact list, if your contact list has their phone on the nightstand or in their purses, help's not coming. So I like it always has to have a live component, no matter which app you use. It has to have a live component, and it has to have a GPS component. That means people can find out exactly where you are. This one has a video component. So if you feel that you're in danger, and the number one thing I said is trust your gut. If you feel that this may not be a good situation, immediately push the button, and there's a video of you and your circumstance for all to see. And then you have a live monitor on the other end, someone whose job is to look at what's happening on that screen, and they're looking at you, and they can send help to your location. They have your medical information. So definitely vet any app company. That Agent SafeWalk is the one I'm in love with right now. So know that it meets the criteria, and they can help you before you get in grave danger.
That's great advice. Great advice. Thank you so much again. And I hope to have you back. You know, we need to do more together, because I feel like this was really some really important advice. And I appreciate it so much. So I don't see any questions, but thanks for the audience that joined us live. And thank you guys. And we'll see you on Monday with another Mastermind Live. Have a great day. You bet. You guys have a great weekend.
Okay, you too.